Pretty. We are live. Hello.
We love shooting, hunting, and educating. So if you want to learn about long-range shooting, you're in the right place. This is the Long Range Addicts Podcast. Shooter ready, stand by.
What up, everybody? Welcome to this fine Thursday. I'm doing better at actually doing the podcast. I've been shitty at it lately, and I apologize, but I've had a lot of people beating my door down trying to get this out. But hey, we're back. We're still doing the plan of every other week, doing the LRTBS session. But this week, I kind of wanted to do something different because in the groups and in a lot of the chats we're in, we're getting asked the same questions a lot. And, we're trying to get it out there and trying to get everybody on the same page and educate, like we said. First off, I want to appreciate and thank Primary Arms. Primary Arms came on this year. We're still learning a lot about them. I honestly didn't know a lot about them, but the more that I've been playing on the website, learning the website, there's a lot of stuff on there. I mean, it's kind of like Midway, it's Brownells, it's a little bit of everything. Before I knew them, it was all optics, but they've made a big change, a whole new directional change anyway. And it's kind of exciting because you can buy not only primary arm stuff, you can buy a lot of other stuff that you've been searching for. And I found a lot of stuff that is in stock on their website that isn't in stock in other places. So I want to give a shout out to them. I'm excited. I've ordered a couple rifle scopes. Hopefully we can get them and try them out on the new range and get going. Yes, it is Shawn from We Like Shooting. We're desperate. We need people. So if you don't know who Shawn is, Shawn from We Like Shooting, one of the bigger shows on the podcast networks. Shawn's been big into, the AR, the pistol side of things. And we wanted to bring him on because he's going to start getting into the long range side like the rest of us fine folk. We're bringing him to the side of the light,
Yeah.
We're letting him shoot shit at a long ways instead of shooting stuff where they can throw the gun at when he's out of ammo type stuff. So we're excited to have him today and talk about this. We've got Jose, of course, from Long Range Tactics.
Hey.
And we've got Tyler from Long Range Tactics. How you doing?
Good.
Negative 20 on dignity points. What's that all about?
Yeah, that's what you get. That's what you get for having me on.
What's dignity? I've never heard of that word. I don't think I've ever had that.
Yeah, I who wants it, honestly?
It's one of those.
You're in the red now.
Overrated.
Yeah.
Dignities.
Also, hey, Dustin, shut up.
Desperate times. So, on the long range side of things, Shawn, introduce yourself. Tell us about We Like Shooting. Tell us about that so the long range side knows what you're doing so they can maybe go sit through a few of your podcasts and learn something on your side of things.
Basically, We Like Shooting. It's a podcast. It became my full-time job a few years ago, but we've been doing it for almost 9 years. We get a bunch of downloads and have a lot of fun, but it's really not learning anything or providing any value to anybody. We just drink and talk about guns and have fun and cuss. And it's like Howard Stern, but with guns and more whiskey, but less strippers. So,
Man, we've been doing this wrong this entire time.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much what it is, though. It's we have fun. We became the #1 show on the Firearms Radio Network 5 years ago and have just continued to grow and grow and grow and grow. But yeah, it became my full-time job. It's literally what I do all day long, every day. And it's a blast.
I've seen all them fancy pictures you've been taking lately of the Kleenexes and then the Brokeback Mountain looking pictures and with the lever. They look good though. They do. They look really good.
We put a photography studio. I've got a really big office space where I work, and we put a photography studio up front. So now whenever I have a really stupid idea, I can just walk up there and take a picture of it. But the cowboy thing was because I don't know, some politician said Wild West pimp style and was talking about that. And I was like, wait a minute, I got some stuff for this.
That's one of those things. I was scrolling through it and I'm like, wait, who the hell? Shawn, no shit. I'm like, wow, hell, they're getting freaking Western over there in Colorado.
I've had this lever action and this Australian cowboy hat for like 2 years, and finally it became useful. Finally, I can write it off.
I've got a duster you can borrow. Then you can fit the whole homage thing type. You got the duster on, you can put the whiskey in the pockets, and away you go.
I'm in, man. And actually, I don't know if you noticed, but I even took the time to wrap the plate carrier in leather.
I didn't. I'm gonna have to go back and do some research on that.
Yeah, and then I ordered those glasses off of a Facebook ad. I think those are the dumbest glasses I've ever seen, but I was like just cruising Facebook just to see what was going down. And suddenly I had ordered like $50 Randy Macho Man Savage glasses. I don't know what's happening in my life, man. It's a weird time.
Yeah, but the craziest part of that entire story is you actually got what you ordered off of Facebook.
Yeah, for like one of the first times ever, I've actually stopped doing it because, like I donate to a lot of GoFundMe's and stuff, but I don't want to donate to wish.com as well.
I'm not going to lie. I had not seen the picture you were talking about. And as much as you're playing it up, I'm even more impressed looking at it. That is pretty good.
Anyway, that's literally my day job.
This is the thing. I get this all the time. They're like, man, I wish I had your day job. I wish I did what you do. But I'm like, you've got to understand something, because it ruins a hobby in a hurry. Because now I'm like, I want to go fishing because I don't want to deal with guns anymore. I'm sick of this shit.
It does get kind of crazy. Like I make a very concerted effort to go to the range at a very minimum once a week, like to go shoot, to do whatever, and we do it under the guise of like filming YouTube videos and things like that. But I make myself go to the range, even if I don't get to the range like during Monday through Friday, I'll go on the weekend just to make sure that I'm at least getting some fun out of it. Because like tonight, I won't leave here till 11, and it'll be my 4th night in a row that I'm here after 11 p.m. So yeah, like it has it's very easy to burn out. I even went through some burnout like at the end of 2020, and it's tough to break out of it. But by doing fun stuff like walking into to the photo studio and just taking dumb cowboy pictures, like that kind of breaks it up a bit.
Yeah. That's the nice thing is you're like, okay, I'm done shooting for a minute. I'm going to go take pictures, or I'm going to go do that. At least you can build content, and it still makes it interesting. But I think getting you into the long range side of things is definitely going to be fun too, because it is not like you go to a square range and you're shooting A's, you're shooting silhouettes, you're shooting that kind of stuff all day long, to where you're just square. This way, you're shooting off different props, you're shooting long ways, you're understanding wind. I mean, there's a whole lot of variables that enters in with coming into the long range side of things. And that's kind of why I wanted to bring you in, because we've been working on something, and I wanted to talk kind of about that. And we're gonna have Shawn come out here to Utah to the new range, and we're gonna shoot a lot of stuff, and we're going to have some fun, and we're going to bring some people in to shoot with us. So it's going to be freaking fun with this new project that we're doing. And we're going to get to that a little bit later in the show. And hopefully Shawn's got some questions that we can go through here. But I know Jose and Tyler have heard this a million times in the long range tactics group, is like, hey, I'm looking for a long range rifle. I don't know what the hell to get, because there's so many options out there. And I've been extremely surprised of how many freaking Bergara questions have been lately. And you know what? Kudos to freaking Bergara, because they've been doing a phenomenal job with marketing. I noticed they just released something else today. They've done phenomenal with their 22s. They've done a lot of different things. So Bergara is that good. My biggest thing is I've never touched one. I've never shot one, so I cannot speak to that. And that's kind of what the difference with the long-range tactics is. We don't go comment on shit we don't know about. And that's kind of the coolest thing about the way we've set up our group, the way we've set up the Long Range Act podcast and everything else. I'm not going to go tell you, hey, don't shoot that, because I don't know. But I wanted to bring Jose and Tyler into this conversation a little bit. Jose, I'm going to give you the floor for a minute. Kind of tell us what you think about someone entering into the game. What gun are you going to go out there and buy, or what are you going to look for when you go in to buy it, in your opinion?
Well, yeah, I'm going to loop right back to Bergara. I haven't touched one that didn't shoot yet. I haven't touched one that didn't flat out make me a little bit sad about the custom money that I spend. And that's to say I've only purchased one, and I purchased it for a buddy. I'm no Bergara fanboy, but I've just shot a bunch of them. And just for the money, they're silly good. I mean, Remington 700s just are what they are, right? I mean, they did set a standard for everything. Like we always talk about 700 clones and 700 fit and 700 trigger or whatever, but there's so much better stuff out there now. I was a Tika fanboy for a while. My first 3 customs were Tikas, but there's no competition for the factory offerings that are offered. I mean, the aftermarket offerings for Remington 700, and that's where Bergara makes a lot of sense because, I'm definitely a buy once, cry once kind of guy, right? Like if you know long range shooting is for me, right? So you're thinking about getting to it, you're a 3-gunner and you love guns, and you just want to get into long range shooting. Then yeah, spend money, build the nicest thing you can, don't waste time, shorten your learning curve, etc. But if you want to dip your foot and feel like you're not left behind, it's hard not to go with something like a Bergara, especially the Bergara HMR, or one of their versions that would be a detachable magazine, a little bit heavier barrel, definitely muzzle threaded. They just, for a factory rifle, I don't know of one that's truly factory, not, one of these Gap team rifles or MPA PMRs, but a truly factory rifle. I don't know of a brand that can consistently every single time provide barrels that shoots as good, that also just happen to be easy to upgrade, right? I mean, all of a sudden you can turn around and go have any gunsmith go barrel it some crazy wildcat you want. You can go to Trigger Tech or Bixen Andy or Timney and order off their website and drop in the trigger yourself, or you don't like the HMR stock, you want to add some weight, go pick your MPA, MDT, Manners, whatever you're going to pick, McMillan, AG, and it's just there. But you started with an $800 rifle, $900 rifle, you can sell for $100 less than you bought it for if you decide you don't like long range shooting. And if you do like long range shooting, you got a pretty awesome action already there to build off of. So for me, the Bergara is just so hands down hard to beat for somebody that wants to test long range shooting without, spending risky money. I guess there's a difference between safe money and risky money, right? So that's my 2 cents anyways.
Yeah. What about you, Tyler? What do you think?
So I started on the 700. I like the 700 for all the aftermarket support that it gets, but after shooting it and then getting into a custom, if I had to go and start again, I'd probably go Tika or Bergara. Just the Bergara, you still get the 700 support, like Jose was saying, but the Tika is it's a solid action. For the money, you can't beat it.
Right. What you got anything to add right here, Shawn, before I go to the next section?
When I was first starting to think about that, long range is kind of one of the things I want to tackle. We have some listeners that have turned into friends over the years, and I was kind of asking them, what do you guys think? I was like, clearly this stuff can be really expensive. So Bergara, Tika, the T3 TAC, I think, they were both recommended. They were like, yeah, you can't really go wrong with these. And you can upgrade them, you can change things, you can do all the things you want. But hearing you guys echo that is definitely a good thing. But I think just getting into long range is kind of intimidating. Like when I got into just guns in general, pistols pretty easy to get into, right? You like do a thing, take a class, have some fun, and then you can build off of that. You shoot ARs, it's kind of the same thing. You can do all these different things, but you can do it as a bystander. You don't have to become a specialist. And that's the thing about long range shooting, is that long range shooting isn't just going out and shooting things really far. It's like committing to learn 10 different skills just to be minimally effective. And that's the thing. It's intimidating. It really is.
Yeah, and that you've hit the nail on the head there. It can get extremely expensive. There's a giant rabbit hole you can go down, and ARs are kind of that way. You can go buy handguards, you can go buy a lot of different things, but a lot of that stuff you can do yourself. Most of the stuff in the long range game, you've got to pay a gunsmith to do, unless you get in pre-fits, and that's a whole nother thing. But I keep hearing, hey, I want to go buy a 700 and I'm going to build a custom. And I kind of want to break that down for everybody that's listening. you've got to understand what you need to do to upgrade a 700 for the price. So are you really getting what you need to be getting from a 700, or should you take the next step up and go to some of the actions that are available? So you go buy a 700 at Walmart, you're, $300-400 into it. Whatever it is, you pull the barrel, you pull the stock, you pull the trigger. That trigger needs to go in the garbage. That's the very first thing you do. The rest of it needs to go in the garbage. All you've got is an action list. So you're already starting at $400. Next thing you got to do, you got to take it to a gunsmith. He's got to go in and true it. He's got to do a good gunsmith will do the lugs. He'll face it up, he'll time it. Everything is trued up. Some of them will go through the raceways and clean those up, so it's really smooth. Others will go in and flute it so it's even more smooth. But by that time, you're another, I don't know, $400 into it, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I'd say $300 to $400 is pretty standard for all that.
So you're $800 into an action already, and that's all you've done. So you still haven't done an extractor. They've still got the same shitty extractor and ejector system that a 700 has. Now, the standard bolt face 308 bolt face in a 700 is okay. You're not going to have a whole lot of issues. But you get into the magnums, say goodbye to that pile of crap, because if it gets stuck or anything, you're going to run into that issue. So the next step is, upgrading that. So you go either a mini M16, a Seiko style, whatever. There's another couple $100. So by the time you've done this all with your action and you've done it, you're between $800 to $1,000 into an action. Now look at the other side of this. You go to a Tikka. You can buy the rifle and compete just like that. You can swap it into something else. I've heard a lot of people say the Tikkas are fine, the Bergaras are fine. You can go buy an action. Kelbley's builds a solid action. The Atlas Tactical, they're in that. Bighorn, like has been stated. Defiance has some new ones that are phenomenal. And there's a whole lot of actions out there that have everything completely built into them. All you got to do is buy them and send them to a gunsmith. And you're set. So you've got to look at it from the point of view, like, what rabbit hole are you going to go down? Are you going to go try and make something, turn a Fiat into a Ferrari, or are you going to go buy, something that's in between there, and then build it out? Jose, what are your top actions in your mind that new guys need to look at?
I hate to say just one thing, but at the end of the day, my answer is always going to land on one. If I'm buying an entry level custom action, and it is that Zermatt Origin, I had a TL2 for a while and was running it beside a Zermatt Origin, and the Origin was as smooth or smoother. They're 825 out the door for the short action. The bolt heads are interchangeable, so if you're a guy that does want to go down the pre-fit rabbit hole, you can have an action that you can put a 223 head, a Magnum head for something like a 6.5 PRC or 7 SOM, as well as any of your match calibers, 6 GT, 6 Creed, 6.5 Creedmoor, whatever, any of those for 825. And they're so well machined that every gunsmith out there can make a pre-fit for them. And you don't have to send your action off. Now, don't get me wrong. I've got 4 impacts, and those are substantially more than an Origin. And I love them. I will never, I love that decision. But if I was a beginner, it is so hard to beat that Origin. I mean, if you're going to step up from that Bergara, like I was talking about, you want to go into like a no crap custom action, you take an Origin and go compete all day long. Put you a good barrel on it, put you a good stock on it, put a good trigger, and it's going to be as reliable as anything else out there. The only drawback that some people might complain about is it's not an integral recoil lug. It's a pinned recoil lug. So what? Like, it's freaking awesome. And for me, I mean, and there's others in that price range, right? The Arc Nucleus. And the ones that really have struck my attention, though, that I do want to try is the Defiance, like the Anti and the Ruckus, and those. They have some that are in that $900 range, right? And those are obviously as well machined that you can get pre-fits for them. But I haven't touched those, so it's hard for me to recommend that yet. I want to touch those. But that Origin, I've played with them, shot them, killed my longest deer to date with one that I borrowed. I mean, they're flat out awesome at a really stinking good price.
Yeah, that rifle right there is a Defiance Ruckus. It's on a Bartlett carbon fiber 6.5. And it's I had never owned a Defiance until that rifle, and I'm extremely pleasant with it. I've got a couple antis around here and stuff, and it's all about preference. I'm going to do a little plug right here because they're one of our sponsors, but we're going to go into Falcor. Falcor Defense has always been known for their 300 Win Mag, their AR line. Falcor has recently released a whole new line of bolt action rifles, chassis systems, the Dracos barrel. I don't know how to say it without being a pure fanboy and without saying it, but as a connoisseur of fine actions, they have hit the nail on the head with the way they designed their action. They've done the extractor system right. The feel of it's phenomenal. Integral recoil lug, integral rail. They went through and they asked the right questions when they built their actions. I just saw something the other day. They're releasing a new ultralight one, I think. They're teasing it. I'm excited about that. But I appreciate Falcor for supporting us, and I'm excited to see their stuff. But I do have one of their new actions, and it is as good as I think most of the top tier actions out there. And so it's something to look into at Falcor Defense. They've done it right. And we did have them on the podcast, so go back and listen to that. Jason came on. He's the founder of Falcor. They do a lot of stuff. And I'm probably going to bring him back on here eventually to talk about the new stuff. But I want to talk about that real quick. I know, Tyler, I shot for Team Remington for a while, and it was just what I was used to. We both kind of upgraded. You always hear the same thing in the precision bolt. Well, you hear a lot of the same thing across the board when it comes to firearms, but buy once, cry once. We've both kind of dipped down that impact. Well, all three of us have, is the impact trail. And a lot of it is because of the people behind it. But do you want to kind of go through and, tell everybody how you started and kind of the progression you've made? I think it'll help a lot of the guys understand where we're going with this.
You want me to? Yeah. So I started just a 700. I took it to Cole's buddy, got it blueprinted and new barrel on it, 260 Remington, shot the crap out of it. Then eventually stepped up to the Kelblies, that Atlas Tactical, with the proof comp contour on it and 6 Creed. And recently got that impact with a benchmark JVC contour and dasher. And it's progressively gotten worse for me. My addiction's gotten worse. Cole's a terrible friend.
Right?
Absolutely terrible. And the scope addiction is another problem.
Yeah, we won't get into scopes because that'll break people right there. I mean,
Yeah.
you get into scopes that cost more than the rifles, easy, and that's a whole nother rabbit hole we can go down. But Shawn, what is your coming into this? I kind of want to hear the outsider's view of what you think long range shooting is and what you think you have to get to compete with, or just compete with your buddies with a long range setup. Like what in your mind, what do you think you need?
That it is a good question, because you can buy stuff off the shelf and be okay, right? But getting any further into it than that, that's where it gets confusing. Because I understand what an action is. I understand what makes them decent and what makes them not decent. I've seen good examples. I have the benefit of one of the guys on We Like Shooting used to work for Proof Research and built a bunch of their rifles. So he's been transferring that knowledge to me over the last few years, and showing me how to bed an action and do it correctly. And just seeing all that stuff and knowing the sheer amount of volume of knowledge that has to come in, I think, is one of the most intimidating things. There's really no simple way, right? You can just go buy an off-the-shelf AR. You can just go buy an off-the-shelf pistol. And you can buy an off-the-shelf long-range rifle. But if you want to be seriously competitive, if you want to move to that next level, then you really do have to commit to it. And that commitment of learning all these different things is, I think, one of the things that's mainly really intimidating. So Cole, you and I have been talking a lot over months and months and months, and just like trying to figure out. And you're like, well, okay, so do you have this? And I'm like, I really don't know. I don't know. I don't even know what to look for. Right. Like it's a different world. It is guns. It is shooting a projectile out of a barrel. But other than that, that's kind of where the similarities end. Right. Like finding all these different things and even having a base knowledge of how some things work, it is intimidating. So when you say, well, like to get into it, what's the stuff that gets you? It's everything, right? You know, because if you get a really baller rifle, then you have to load for it. And if you're going to load for it, you have to understand reloading. And that's like a whole other voodoo that you have to figure out and kind of understand. Like you can put a bullet in a case with primer and powder, but ultimately, like it doesn't really matter if you don't do the things that are important, like measure, you know, how far it is from the ogive to the lines and grooves and like doing all that stuff. Like ultimately you can fine tune things so much. You can buy a rifle, you can shoot 1,000 right off the bat, but like I'm not as interested in that as I am like having something that I can shoot way further if I want to. And it's all intimidating. Like, okay, what action do I need? Do I need a short action? Do I need a long action? What caliber do I want? Do I want a Wildcat? Do I want something I could buy off the shelf? That's the stuff I think that really just burns people out and they just kind of goes another direction.
Right. Yeah. And I get that 100%. And from when I started working in the industry almost a decade ago, a little over a decade ago, there's been a whole lot of transition between you can't just go buy an accurate rifle to they've made a whole lot of progression with it. I'm going to surprise a lot of people right here. I've got a 6.5 Creedmoor, Savage Axis 2. I think I paid $150 for it. Tyler's seen this gun. It's like it's just a base Savage. It's a POS. I took this thing into Barnes because I'm like, I'm going to screw around. I want to buy a truck gun. Everybody's heard the term truck gun. I took this thing into Barnes and I shot out of factory load at 100 yards. It shot one of the best groups that's ever been shot out of Barnes. It was like a .12. It blew everyone's mind. And I'm not saying that every Savage out there is like that, but I think a lot of people's misconceptions is they have to go pay that $3,000 to go compete. And that's one of the nice things about, you know, like the NRO Hunter series and things like that. They're like, come with what you got and shoot. Now, I think the biggest issue with a lot of people getting into this is the cartridge. I keep seeing this time and time. Like I'm going to shoot myself in the head if I keep seeing this. Into the long range tactics groups, you need a 300 Win Mag to shoot that far. You need this, you need that. You don't need that shit. It is amazing to me the misconceptions that are out there. You don't need a 300 Win Mag to kill frickin' ammo. It was my first rifle when I started competing back in 2000. I don't know, whenever it was. Dude, they were pissed off. I was killing the shit out of their steel with a 220, and it just isn't needed. I've made a lot of connections. I've shot a 22 Creed out past 1,000 easy. You know, I've created a couple 1,000-yard 223s. A lot of that stuff is a misconception about how you come into this sport and what you need. You don't need a heavy recoiling rifle because you cannot stay on target. One of the biggest things that you need to do as a shooter is understand where that bullet just went and make the correction and shoot again. Now, that's different with hunting. We're not going to go down that road tonight, but you know, downrange ballistics, energy, that kind of stuff, that's a totally different thing. But getting into long range shooting, you do not need the big Magnum cartridges. It's not needed. Now, the next misconception in my brain is you have to hand load. Now, there is a downside to not hand loading. It's freaking expensive. Match ammo is expensive as hell. But I've seen a lot of match ammo that have just blown my freaking mind about how good it shoots. I mean, you got low SDs, low ESs. They're loading with the right bullet. They've finally figured out, you know, how to load with powders that aren't affected by temperature. You know, you go into the extreme powders and different things, the Hodgson extremes. They've been using a lot of that. But I think this is the thing that scares a lot of people is they just don't understand what they need to get. And I think I can't say this easy enough. I can't say it enough. Go buy a box of ammo, go get you a gun and go shoot and understand what you're doing, because a lot of these guys that have these $10,000 freaking trickle setups and everything else, that only does so much for you. The wind reading and everything else gets into that. But yeah, I know. I see. Look, I've still got Charge Masters. Because I am to that point in my shooting career that I still understand that freaking wind kicks my ass more than anything else. Whether I'm going from a 3 ES to a 6 ES doesn't matter, because I still can't read the wind. So we're gonna go down that road one of these days. We did with Emil Praslick. But so I'm gonna let Jose kind of go here because I've been rambling for a minute. But I just like it. It hurts my head how many misconceptions there are with understanding how to get into shooting. Ballistics is a whole other thing. It's scary, but I'll let you go for a minute, Jose.
I guess for me, it's like those misconceptions are there for a reason, right? And to me, they're there because they're not that far removed from being true. So, I started competing in very end of 2015. So not terribly long ago, but the technology jump from 2015 to now has been astronomical. So I started with a Remington 700 308 bull barrel, that rubbery foldable Hogue stock, and it wasn't foldable because there was a hinge on it, So 168 grain Hornady Bowtail hollow point factory ammo. It'd shoot right at 1 MOA, sitting on a bench, no pressure whatsoever, all that junk. But I took it to, I shot it for 4, 5, 6 PRS matches. And, I'd hit targets, but I wasn't at all competitive, like not at all, and I tried to reload for it. Didn't get a whole lot better. Then stepped into my first semi-custom, right? And even the scope that was on it, et cetera, et cetera. But we're not that far removed from off the shelf guns not being great. 2 years to me, two, when all the announcements started coming out for SHOT Show 2019 about all the guns and actions and scopes and everything being released, about that time, if I had to draw a line and say, Jose, when did it happen? 2019, you could start buying off-the-shelf guns, off-the-shelf ammo, sub-$700 scope that is going to stay true to tracking, quality glass, Parallax works, right? And all those things. And so I think really, one, the misconceptions are there because, some people haven't bought anything the last 2 years and they're still using the stuff that caused the misconceptions in the first place. But the new guys can buy stuff that does break that trend, right? Breaks that mold, because, necessity drives innovation, and we're we reap those benefits where all these companies are competing with each other, come out with the next best, coolest thing. And they're all pretty dang awesome. So I think you can now, right? We talked about the Bulgara HMR and the Tika, the CTR, the TAC A1 and all those things. And heck, even the factory ammo, I've said this before, probably even on the show, I've never been so mad at ammo as I have the Hornady American Gunner 140 grain Bowtail hollow points for 6.5 Creedmoor. I have never seen that ammo shoot more than 3/4 MOA in any gun I've ever put it in, and that's been at least 6. It's silly. It's got the BC of a brick, but the SDs were 10, 11, and under 3/4 MOA. And you get them. Heck, when we were getting them, I got them on Black Friday for 50 cents a round. I can't load for that, they're just, and they're not the only ones, right? Across the board, like you said, manufacturers are figuring it out. You don't have to, but you don't have to go buy a $2.50 cents a round ammo either. You understand you're going to be giving up BC a little bit, but the misconceptions are there for a reason. And I think eventually we'll overcome them. It's so recent since all the misconceptions have finally proven to be untrue. But it's crazy. We're in a lucky, other than the politics of today's atmosphere, we're in a pretty lucky time shooting wise, if you ask me.
Yeah, it's a shit show.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so I guess to go back to the main point of what you're talking about, and it's kind of why I wanted to have you come on, Shawn, because I get it. We were all there. Myself was there, Jose was there, Tyler was there, everybody probably listening was there or is going to be there at some point. You're just getting into something that's it's like taking that first step into, holy shit, this might be too much. But I noticed somebody said it. I think it was Corey said it up earlier. It's like, just go to a match. It's amazing in this sport how many people are willing to step aside and do that for you. We're going to go shoot a match. It's called the Sound and Silence match. It's an all suppressor match here in Utah. I invited everybody that I could think of that's a new shooter. I'm like, dude, come jump on the POI TAC bus. We're all going to go have a good time. We're going to go shoot. You can use any of my stuff. I don't give a shit where I place. I really don't. I'm to that point in life to where I can probably go for what I pay for a match. I can go buy whatever the hell I need at a discounted price anyway. But the cool thing about this is so many people are willing to help you understand. You get into ballistics. I've been doing this. Hell, I was a ballistician for 6 years, and I still learn stuff every day about ballistics, lits and everything else. Lits is always, I know Brian really well, and he's always out there trying to figure out the next thing. But it's one of those things you just got to kind of take the step, the leap, and go in and do it. And I talked about it on last week's show. The next thing is you've got to compete against somebody that's in your class. Quit competing against, in your brain, quit competing against the top 10, the top 20 shooters. Compete against the guys that are at your level, and then put yourself there and then grow from there. But it amazes me how many people just kind of like get in that mindset. Oh, I can't compete with these guys. They're too good. They're doing this thing, but don't compete against them. Go compete against the people you're going to do. If you're worried, Ian Kelby said this the other day. If you're worried about prize tables, you're probably in the wrong thing. Go compete, go have fun. That's what it's all about. And I think we've lost a lot of traction there. I noticed one of the guys said production rifles. I don't know if I should go down that rabbit hole or not, but Shannon's a good friend of mine. And the PRS, I know exactly what they're doing. And I know why they're doing it. There's a problem with the production rifle type of stuff right now. It's not a production rifle. It's somebody trying to make something at a certain price. It's a price point instead of a production rifle, in my opinion. So there's that whole thing. I mean, we get it all the time. Hey, my budget is $2,500, because it's crazy how people's budgets line up with what they're doing. And there's a lot of great options out there. You look and you're like, why would I go pay $5,000 for that when I can go buy a production rifle for $2,500 that shoots just as good? And you brought that up just a minute ago, Shawn. It's like, why would I go spend a whole shitload of money on something when I can't? Why don't I go buy the $2,000 rifle and put the more expensive glass on it? And I think that's kind of where people need to start going with their brain, is just start, finding something that you can shoot, and you can tune about any load. If you're a good hand loader, you can tune about any load that you can think of to that rifle. You mess with the distance off of lands, which is OGI to, your lands, and that grows and different things. And Scott Satterley's done a lot of things on that, set up further. I always had the misconception that I had to set a match bullet right there next to the lands. And I text Scott one day and I was like, hey, Scott, what do I need to do to make this gun shoot? He goes, 60 thou. I'm like, huh? The whole misconception has been I've got to set that between 5 thou to 20 thou. That's where it has to be. And then I've got to chase the lands. And Tyler saw this firsthand. It was in my 6GT. I set that round 60 thou off the lands, and holy shit, there was a weird node right in there that has just been a hammer. And it changed my velocity. It changed my accuracy. It changed a lot of things. And I'm like, this entire time I've been chasing that distance off the land. So I want to kind of bring up this next point of misconceptions. Shit you read on frickin' Facebook, because that's where you go. Everybody goes to Facebook for their knowledge, and everybody's a freaking, a professional. I've been doing this for over a decade. I am not a professional. I will admit that every day, and I still learn a lot from a lot of people, and that's the take you have to have on this. Jose's just sitting there laughing at me, shaking his head. What do you got on it, Jose? Let's hear it.
No, honestly, I was just laughing at people that go to Facebook because they think they can trust somebody's firsthand knowledge because anything you read on Google was bought and paid for. And what you end up getting is just ignorant information on Facebook. And it's not necessarily any better, right? That's why we try to kind of filter LRT the way we do a little bit. And a lot of people think that I get testy on LRT, and really I'm not actually trying to educate the guy that gave the wrong answer because he was ignorant and arrogant enough to give the wrong answer in the first place. But I am trying to do is educate the guys that are reading his answer and put true perspective on it. So anyway, that's why I was laughing. But the whole bullet thing, going back to the jumping off the lands, it's so funny to me. I almost like, I enjoy loading for my 6.5 PRCs because I know I want to mag feed them, and I know there's no way I'm going to touch the lands. So I literally load to 2.950 long and end of length testing. And they'll still shoot. I mean, they will still, some people get so, we're in the world of Instagram and Facebook and whatever, and everybody wants to post that awesome 5-shot group that was 0.2 MOA, right? And I've done it, but like, woohoo, you're going to kill a deer at 500 yards, max for a lot of people. And a 1.5 inch gun can do it if you know what you're doing, but you can load to mag length and forget about measuring that distance to, your jump to your lands. And what are you going to do? You're probably not going to overpressure ever, and there's a lot to be said for mag length rounds that kind of avoids a lot of complication. So it is funny when people and those top notch guys, we want to learn from them, and the top notch guys do learn all the nuances of their loads and the jumps and blah, blah, blah. And it's all valid. But like, man, I remember seeing a guy that would just suck at matches. I would shoot matches with this guy over and over and over, and he would just not do well. And I saw him post about his new neck turner one day, and I was like, that's some money that could have been put towards practice. Like there's a lot to be said for your money and your time, right? Like best return on investment. That's what people should really focus on when they're first getting into this.
Yeah. Like, I don't even, that's the thing is like, where do I put my money and my time? It's frustrating and sometimes feels insurmountable, honestly.
Quality rings, quality stock, pay for the better ammo. If you find PMC Midway, sorry, it's not going to be super reliable out there. Some gun might like it. You might get a Ruger American that's going to shoot at half MOA. Then you're going to get through 20 rounds, and then that 21st round out of that next box is going to, and the next 5 after that are going to be inexplicable, right? Good rounds, good rings, because the rings will hold it all together, right? Like everybody wants to get that flashy scope. Everybody wants that flashy action. Well, if your stock sucks and isn't married up your action very well, you're going to chase your tail all day long, And if your rings suck and keep slipping or whatever, or they bind, right? So I would say, pay attention to the little things that most people don't think are sexy, that mean a lot. And besides that, I mean, go shoot. Don't chase the neck turning and the jumps and everything till you're out shooting your gun. Until you're out shooting your gun, that's what you need to worry about. Worry about the big things,
Fair.
Yeah, and I think, Shawn, your biggest thing is in pistol. Honestly, guys go out there and their biggest thing is just spending time behind the gun, getting used to it, getting used to the trigger, and the same thing. A lot of people do that same thing in precision rifle. Well, where they go what they call dry fire, right? Where you'll go sit behind a gun, and find a target and just sit there and learn your trigger break, things like that. Jose's got the FX behind him, and that just takes you to a little bit closer level to what you're doing. I am still at the point I've been to a lot of classes. I've taken a lot of classes in precision rifle about wind, understanding wind, because especially in wind, like out here at the new range, there's 3 canyons in between us and the mile target. So what is the wind doing in between us and the target? There's a lot of different things that you can invest your time in more than buying the $4,000 scope, more than buying the $5,000 rifle setup. It's understanding what the bullet does, understanding, wind reading, staying on target, learn how to adjust. That's one of the big things that I've been struggling with lately is I get in a hurry. I finish a lot of stages before I should be finishing them, and if you sit and watch guys like Jake Vibert, I've sat and just kind of watched him, and he's just slow and methodical. And it's like, holy shit, dude, you're going to run out of time. You're not going to have enough time to finish this. You're not going to have enough time to do the next thing. And it's a completely different game than 3-gun, than IDPA, than all that stuff where you're trying to run that. You already know what your set time is. You want to get to that time. You don't want to go over that time. You want to be right at that time, but still have enough time to where you're not rushed. And watching those guys run the bolt, pull, trigger through, follow through, on target. Okay, shit, I was 2 tenths right. I'm going to make that adjustment. I've got this much still. I'm going to go 3 tenths because I've got this much still to work with. That's something that I still deal with all the time. Is it's like taking the time, taking the breath to do it. And you're not going to do that by spending time in the reloading room. You can spend all the time you want in the reloading room trying to figure out a load and everything else. But I like to go grab a box of ammo and just go out and shoot and understand, okay, this ammo is a little bit different. My freaking wind sucks. My BC sucks. That's why a lot of people say go to 308, right? Because you're going to understand your wind and everything else a little bit more, because the 308's like a damn bus in the wind, right? Same thing with 22. I think 22 is probably one of the best things to learn wind right now. You don't have to go sit at the reloading bench. You just go find a good load that shoots through your gun, and you understand one that completely kicks your ass if there's a lot of wind. It's kind of like my 204 Ruger. Love hunting coyotes with it, but if there's any wind, I'm putting that thing back in the truck because it's going to freaking make me humble really quick. But that's just little things that I think that everybody overlooks. Everybody spends so much time in the reloading room and not enough time behind the trigger. And that's my 2 cents when it comes to it, is go out there and find something that shoots okay and just learn how to read it, learn how to manage it, learn how to input it in your Kestrel or whatever you're using to understand it. What do you got? Like you've had an overload of information. Where are you at, Shawn? Let's hear it.
Let's see. Then how do I figure out like what competition I actually want to shoot? Like what's the best competition for a newcomer to even shoot if they want to get into long range stuff? Because I've done 3-gun, I've done USPSA for quite a while. But I know the names of some of the competitions, but like you talked about competing against other people, and for me it's always competing against myself, right? Like go to a match, and then the next match try to do better than I did the time before, and learn the lessons and learn from the mistakes that I made. But holy crap, like it feels like suddenly over the last couple of years there's 10 different options on even what to shoot, like which one even fits what I want to do, which is just shoot far.
Well, for you need to go to the Cheyenne Mountain match the 3rd Saturday of every month.
Nice.
I really fell in love with. But no, somebody just said local club matches, just like a monthly USPSA. So yeah, I mean the local matches, for one, when we talk about a beginner, when you talk about cost effectiveness, right? So a 2-day match that's 160 to 180 days, 180 rounds fired, is a $300 entry fee. And yes, there's a prize table, and yes, there's lunch, but then there's also hotel implied and gas and all that stuff, right? Where a 1-day match, you're looking anywhere from 30 to 80 bucks entry fee, depending on where it's being shot, but you're still getting 80 to 100 rounds, and you get to go home that night and your wife's not super mad, right? So less pressure, less shooters, a little bit more, let's say, laid back. Not that national matches aren't. I mean, national matches are a lot of fun, but those local 1-day matches, Corey there makes a good point, is find the 1-day match where it's not a huge time commitment, not a huge drive commitment, and go spend 80 rounds, go home and work on what you thought you should learn,
I straight up didn't even know there was a Cheyenne Mountain match.
Oh my gosh. 3rd Saturday every month.
That's amazing.
Team match in September. That's what you really should go shoot.
All right. Amazing.
We should go shoot it, Sean, and we can go team match.
Pikespeakprecision.com.
Yeah, I'm actually there right now. I looked at when you said it, I was like, what? I don't even know. Yeah.
That's the thing, is people don't understand how big the network is inside and how easy it is to find on Facebook, like local matches to them. And honestly, me and Tyler have had this conversation quite a few times. Like, it's fun even for a seasoned person that's been shooting it for a while to go back to the one-day matches. Yes, there's not a prize table in most of them, but there's a lot of good people that are willing to just hang out, have fun, teach you, let you use their stuff. You know, when I take the bus somewhere, I load that freaking thing as full as I can get it with everything I can, bags, everything else. And that's how everybody is within the industry, within the long range game, is they're like, hey, let's share this. You know, let's try and get you better as a shooter. Where the national matches aren't quite there, you know, they're about the prize table and different things. But I think a lot of people need to go shoot a few matches. And I still say that if you're really scared, you need to go RO, right? You need to go spend the time behind the spotter, and, you know, understand what these guys are doing as they go into it. I did a thing with one of the TV shows last year, and I kind of explained how the shooters went through, you know, understanding how they went through a stage. And I sat there as the RO and I watched every shooter go through, and every one of them had a little bit different advantage point, a little bit different view of how they were going to attack the stage and different things. And it kind of gives you a lot of that. But I think the one-day matches are phenomenal for being able to watch somebody. You're not under pressure. You can ask the questions like, hey, shit, what was your wind? Somebody's not going to tell you to go eat shit. You know, it's one of those things where everybody wants to help each other. And I'm not saying that about national matches, so don't take me wrong. A lot of national matches, everybody wants to help each other. But it's the next step up to where you're going to go spend 2 days. You're going to go spend upwards of $1,000 between travel and food and everything else, to where the one day, like Jose said, is just the place where you need to start and go start. And if you're in Utah, hit us up. I mean, hit me up. I'll take you. If you're in Alabama, Jose will take you somewhere, that kind of stuff. Hell, I'll come to freaking Colorado and shoot with you, Sean. It's just one of those things. Yep. Like, there's plenty of people we can introduce you to do that. And that's the coolest thing to me. You go on long range tactics group. Hey, I'm in Colorado. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to shoot. 30 people will pop up. Hey, I'm in Colorado. I want to shoot with you, type thing. And that's kind of the fun thing about getting into this. And a lot of you know the same thing about 3-gun IDPA or whatever else, but that's just kind of the way it's gone. Tyler, I missed a section of the podcast about, and I got freaking yak in my mouth.
You started it, and then you quickly took another direction.
Well, you know what happens.
Oh shit, there it is.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's talk about something new in the industry this week, something released. I'll let you go with it.
All right, so I got 2 of them for this week, and they're both muzzle brakes. The first one is the Area 419, their new Hellfire match. From what I gather with it, they learned a lot of a way to do different angles on the ports. They added another port to it. I'm having a giant brain fart. They just basically they learned a lot from the Hellfire. It'll still take the same Hellfire adapter system, but to me it looks like another killer muzzle brake coming out of Area 419.
It's supposed to not mess with you or the guy beside you either.
Oh, there's no fun in that.
Son of a bitch. Them freaking APAs, they work great, but holy freaking headache. Son of a get under a metal structure. I got a headache for a week, but they work really good. But I still got a headache for a week.
And then the next one is titanium self-timing brakes from Boring Rifles. There's 4 different sizes. You can get them in multiple different calibers. They'd be perfect for a lightweight hunting gun. Perfect for it.
All right, Sean, you had a lot of feed. What else we got? What other questions you got for us?
Well, I mean, I think the thing that I've come away with the most is stop stressing about all the minutia of everything. Like start at step one, like pick a damn rifle and get it. Pick a caliber and do it. It's like I try to approach things like chess, right? Like I'm trying to think 5 moves into the future. But really, if you do that, you become so overwhelmed with everything that you never actually make a decision. And if I've gotten anything from what you guys have said, it's like, look, just pick a thing, do the thing. And Jose said, buy once, cry once. But ultimately, like if you make a mistake, like go with the information that you can get. And if you pick wrong, well, I guess pick better next time. There is a ton of information out there. Like go to a match. I imagine people can just attend the matches, just like most other things, and not even actually shoot in it. Just like go kind of hang out and ask questions and do things, which may even be like the best idea of all of them, is just go to a match without a rifle and ask questions and see who does well and see what they're shooting. And a lot can be gotten just by observing. And if there's anything that I've gotten from tonight, it's like, just pick something and go do it, instead of just worrying about, how you're going to figure out what your distance is for the ogive and figure out, and also get good rings, because that's also super important. But I mean, and that's actually like a really good thing, because that's the thing is and Cole, like I'm like, dude, I don't know what to get. Like, I don't know what caliber to pick. I don't know what optic to get. I don't know what barrel to get. I don't know what trigger to get. I don't know do I need a chassis? Do I need a stock? And it cripples you at a point for making decisions. And I think that now I kind of feel a little bit better about it. I'm like, just go get a thing and do the thing, and then go somewhere. Look, I'm never selling my high points. Don't you dare.
Well, and another thing that I will say, just for especially the beginner listeners too, is a trend I'm seeing, which once again for you, Shawn, they do this at Pikes Peak at least once a year, if not twice a year, is matches are actually so focused, like local matches are so focused on growing the sport and their club base, right? Because 30 shooters a month is better than 20 and 50 is better than 30 and so on and so forth. A lot of them are taking a month a year and doing a train-up day. So some of the core, more experienced shooters, they'll go set up 6 stages that are very common. Let's say a rooftop, PRS wall, a pipe stage, a barrel stage, a troop line where you can talk about truing dope and all that. And it's $30, $40 to show up, but there's no score taken. And you'll walk around with a squad and spend 30 minutes at each station, 45 minutes at each station, learning how said experienced shooter will shoot that. And you'll even do some run throughs and stuff. And so a lot of different groups. I think there was one in Northern Utah. I think there was one even over in Price, but a lot of clubs are actually taking 1 month out of the year and just doing a train up for new people, kind of a way to give back, a way to grow. And so for you new listeners out there, look, maybe your local range has something similar. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. I did join that group on Facebook, so I'll keep an eye out and see what they've got coming up. But yeah, I think just being overwhelmed is like the biggest thing. And honestly, just like stop being overwhelmed. Stop thinking so far into it. Stop thinking 5 moves ahead and just focus on the first move, and then see where you're going to go from there. There's tons of knowledge out there. There's this podcast. There is a ton of knowledge, and sometimes weeding through it is difficult, but take the first step, I think, is the advice that I want to really internalize from this right now.
Yeah, and I think one of the big things that a lot of people look at is they get into it thinking they've got to have this caliber to hit this target. And then as you see the progression of the long range game in competition, it's trended to where heavier guns are, less recoiling rifles to where they can stay on target and see stuff. You're going to see a trend. As you get into this, you're going to be like, okay, I really like this trigger, this chassis, this, but I need to go to this because I need to stay on target better. I need to follow up, do different things like this. Me and Tyler both started after I, got going. It was the 260, which is, in that same as the 6.5 Creed. And then we went to, now I'm at a 6 GT. I've got a 22 Creed. I've got a 6 XC. I've got a lot of those smaller recoiling rifles. If you look at BCs, You can get into a lot of stuff, but you don't need to look at that at this point in the game. If you're going to start at one point, get proficient with that, then figure out, okay, I want to go to this Wildcat. Everybody's like, oh, you've got to go 6 Dasher. You've got to go 6 GT. You've got to do this. That's where they're at. You've got to figure out where you're at in the game and how you play it, right? I know Jose just did his 6 GT. I did my 6 GT. I'm like, holy shit. I can see everything clearly. I can see clearly now, that type of thing.
Oh, and you learned you were blind.
Yeah, well, I am that too. I got to start wearing my freaking glasses. I'm blind as shit. But it's that point to where whether it's at a match, whether it's in the backyard, you've got to figure out where you're at and then go from there and learn it. We can get into kestrels, we can get into geoballistics, we can get into AB, we can get into a lot of that stuff later. The cool thing about a lot of that stuff is if you know how to input it, you input it, and it tells you exactly what you need to know, right? The only variable that always screws you is wind, because you cannot figure out what the hell the wind is between you and the target or what the wind is at the target. I can tell you right now, the wind at me is 15 miles per hour, 30 degrees, blah, blah, blah. But what is it at target? You've got to start understanding that before you start telling yourself you can go to the next thing. That's the big thing. But that's the next step. That is something you don't need to worry about right now. You need to get behind the rifle. You need to understand, how it recoils. You need to understand what it does at, elevation. You need to get your ballistics put in right, whether you're, getting velocities, however you're getting velocities, that kind of thing. And I've sat down with a lot of people. They're like, hell, I don't know how to get velocities. And I've sat down with them. I've taken my magneto speed and hooked it up and get them everything, given them the data, and it's been really easy. Then you can get into DAs, you can get into all that stuff. That's something else. But you've got to break this down into subsections just like you do anything else. Okay, I'm going to buy this rifle. It's this caliber. I'm going to learn it. Then I'm going to go into DA. Then I'm going to go into ballistics, BC. Then I'm going to understand that. There's a progression to all this. And I think that you've got to program it into your head, where you want to go with the discussion in your brain, if that makes sense. It can get overwhelming. It always can. I keep seeing it nonstop in the freaking group. 308 or 65, 308 or 65, 308 or 65. It's like,
oh, and don't even get me started on should I get my optic in Mills or MOA?
No, that one's in there too. Mills, hell, what's MOA? Never heard of her.
Right. Brian Kleckner, he's like, I don't know. He does a lot of long range stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, I've done MOA my whole career because that's what he did when he was serving. And then he's like, but shoot what your buddy's shooting. And I was like, okay, that's fair. That's good. And then he's like, also Mills. So
Yep.
If your buddy shoot MOA and you're shooting Mills, you'd be like, wait, what now?
The funny thing is everybody gets wrapped around that. Mills or MOA.
Yeah.
Wow, whatever you put into your freaking Kestrel. You put it in there, and most of the match directors nowadays give you the yardage. Put in the yardage, and the Kestrel will tell you exactly what you need to do. People have got it in their head nowadays that I've got to measure with my reticle. Who the hell measures with the reticle anymore? I've got a laser rangefinder for that stuff. In all the matches I've ever shot, I've only had to do it once. And then they quit doing it halfway through because everybody got so confused they didn't know what the hell they were doing. I mean, we're not engaging
I was at that match.
Yes, you were. You got to use the Mil-Dot Master.
Yeah, you got to use the Mil-Dot Master. And
that's the big issue with that question is that nobody does math anymore, right? It is all Kestrel, your phone app, whatever. There's lines in your scope so that when you miss, and is it between the third and fourth or fourth and fifth, and you move left or right, and that's it. There's no math. We're not snipers. We say we want to be snipers, but we're not. We range find something. We check our speed on our bullet. We put it in a phone or a Kestrel or what have you, and we do what it tells us. So we've gotten rid, it's like we want to be cavemen or something. Like, no, there's a ton of technology out there where it's like, oh, electronics fail. Yeah, okay, they fail, but they don't. Not really, not a lot. the stuff we have now is pretty good and pretty expensive and pretty good, you know. So God, nobody does math. MOA versus mills doesn't matter. Shoot what your buddies shoot.
Yep. Yeah, and that you get into a team match, you either both shoot MOA or you both shoot mills. That way you can read off of one and understand. And then usually you try to figure out, hey, he's shooting a 6.5 Creed. I want to shoot a 6.5 Creed because then I know exactly what his miss is and I can adjust for that and I can make the hit. That type of thing. You get into the competition dynamics stuff and where one of you's carrying a 6.5 and then it was carrying 2.23. That's different. But that's kind of the interesting thing. You get into those kind of matches. But I think people are overreading nowadays too much into what it takes to get into it. Pistol, you point the freaking pistol in the right direction. You try to get ABCs, whatever it is. You try to hit a plate rack. You try to do anything. And I'm not discounting how hard it is to shoot IDPA or 3-gun or any of that. Because, shit, I shot Travis Gibson and them guys, and I'm like, dude, I freaking suck. I'm going to get shot if somebody's shooting at me because I suck that bad with a pistol. And then they put pistol in a freaking precision rifle match. I'm like, well, I'm 0 on that stage. I already know it from here. But that's the thing is it's just a different genre. It's a different understanding, and I appreciate what the IDPA and 3-gun are, but in my opinion, there's so much more to do with long range, with understanding ballistics and everything else. And that's kind of what has always intrigued me with it and understanding. Then you get in your loading room and you're a little mad scientist. You're doing crazy shit with it and you end up eating a bolt. No, I'm just kidding. You don't eat a bolt. But I mean, you put pistol powder in a freaking bolt gun, you will eat a bolt most of the time. I've seen it happen personally. H110 and a 308 is no good. Trust me. Seen it. Been there. I was the one shooting it. Somebody else loaded it. But it's one of those things that you learn, you evolve with, and everything else. So I'm going to talk about Shawn's build real quick. We've been working on this for a couple weeks. We've got a few companies that have stepped up and just rocked it. They didn't even ask questions. They're like, we want to do this because we enjoy what you're doing. We want to get new people involved. One of them is right here, Proof Research. So we're going to build Shawn a new rifle. He's going to go out there and compete. He's going to come out here to Utah. He's going to shoot at the new range. We're going to build some content behind it, understanding, learning, fun, seeing the smile on his face with his, Australian hat or whatever he's wearing, and he's freaking.
Now I'm bringing it.
Yeah. But so let's go over this build real quick. Now, this is one of those ultimate builds. This is one of those things that you want to go to because it's just badass. We're going to start off. Boring Rifles has donated the work behind it and the action. So it's going to be on their party starter action. It's a Defiance Tenacity built to Boring specs. So it's going to be a phenomenal action. He's going to start off with that action. Next, going to be the Proof Research barrel. Proof sent us a carbon fiber barrel for it. So he's going to have a carbon fiber freaking $900, whatever, $800, whatever they are, barrel 6.5 Creed to get going. MDT reached out. MDT's all on board. They're a phenomenal asset to this industry. They're always like, how can I help? I appreciate MDT. They're going to donate a chassis. I'm going to get here in the next couple weeks. So you've already got like the base of what most people want, in a competition rig. Timney's going to donate a hit or a whatever they send me. I mean, either or, but whatever they send me is going to be good. And then you're going to put what optic are you going to put on it?
Probably Swamp Fox. It's a company that I work with. And we'll see how it goes, and we'll really put it to the test. But it's a Warhawk. It's that one right there, actually.
The exciting thing to me is how many optics companies have come out of the woodwork with optics. A lot of optics companies have come out, and honestly, if you shoot, there's one of like usually 6 companies, but there's a lot of new companies that come out that you need to look at. Same with Primary Arms, same with Swamp Fox, same with everything else that could be in that thing. We're going to definitely put it to the test. You start dialing a scope.
Yeah.
You put stress on it with up, down, all around, everything else. You're going to see how a scope performs. Jose just sent me a message. He goes, "We need to put Hawkins rings on it for sure." Andy and the guys over at Hawkins, they're phenomenal guys. But
Based out of Colorado Springs.
yeah,
Nice.
this rifle is going to be one of those things that guys drool over because it's like their dream rifle. But it's something that I wanted to get Shawn because I'm like, I want guys to understand, like, this is what you can put together. This is kind of the budget you're looking for. It's easy. It's simple. You just got to save the money. It boggles my mind when somebody comes to me with a budget. They're like, I got $1,000. Okay, can you hold off for a couple more months and get $1,500 and then go up to the next thing? Like there's a certain point, but I think there's also a backside to that. At what point do you cut it off? And I think the setup that we're going to build you is going to be phenomenal, but it's going to be exciting. We're going to shoot it. We're going to shoot some 6.5 Creed, and I think it's a phenomenal cartridge to get started in my opinion.
It's going to be awesome. I have the dies for it already, and all the presses and powder and projectiles and brass and primers. And I'm actually really excited about this. Just so it turns out that I'll be actually in a wrapped RV touring the country all summer. And one of our first stops is going to be Utah to go shoot with Cole and do all kinds of stuff. It's exciting times. And this rifle, man, like I get excited about a lot of things, but this is one of those things that like has me excited down to the core because it is kind of like the best of the best type thing. And to really see what that actually feels like and to see what that means. Cause I'm a budget guy, man. Like I shoot cheap ass handguns, not high points, but I shoot, I'm not a bougie guy. Like I have bougie stuff, but for me, the stuff that I rely on every day is like just the stuff that's like, puts its boots on every morning and goes to work at the factory. Like that's what I like. So this is that stepping outside of that and to see that other side of things that I don't normally see. I can't tell you how excited I am.
You got some of them primers? What kind you got?
Yeah, what you need. I'm holding what you got, what you need.
Oh, well.
Just remember when you're thinking about bougie guns, anything less than overkill is underachievement.
Perfect.
Yeah. That's one of those things. It's like, kiss my ass for CCIs. Do those even work? I heard CCIs.
This is my lucky haul over the last 2 weeks. Thank you, Barton.
Well, here's the thing. CCI may not work, but it's better than just spitting in the brass.
It's better than nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of those things, man. It's 2 years ago we were all living on the freaking pipe dream, and now we can't get shit. So.
Dude, I met a dude in a Home Depot parking lot to buy fucking like 10-year. Oh, sorry. Am I allowed to cut us on this?
Yeah, you can cuss.
To buy 10-year-old primers that probably are going to blow my eyes out, but
we're iPro. You're good.
I don't even want to talk about what I had to do for them.
Yeah. Well, hey, Home Depot has knee pads. You're good to go.
Whoa, I paid him. Jesus.
$20 is $20.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. $20 for primers?
No,
dude,
I paid.
Go gun broker. They're like $600. And a kidney.
It's fine. Like, whatever. I knew that we had this project, and I was like, I really need to get all the stuff that I need to reload for it. And so, I did what I had to do, and I'm not ashamed. That's how I'm going to.
Hey, whatever works, man. You got them. That's all that matters. What happens at 10 o'clock in a Home Depot parking lot, your own business. I live in a van down by the river type thing.
So I did actually just buy a van, a Sprinter van. But anyway.
Shit, deep pockets. Hell, I tried to buy one of them, then I couldn't refinance my house to buy it.
No, dude, I got it off of Facebook Marketplace. And so he was asking like X number of dollars. And I messaged him and I was like, I have like 5 times less than you want, but I will also trade you that cash plus an AR-15. And so he was like, sure, whatever. I don't really care. At this point, I just need some cash. And I was like, awesome. And then, so I'm an FFL and he couldn't pass a background check. So I was like, all right, well, forget it. And he's like, no, I'll just take the cash. So I basically stole it from him and I feel kind of bad, but at the same time, I've got a Sprinter van.
Yeah. I before I did the bus, I priced out a Sprinter van. I'm like, I can have one hell of a school bus for a freaking Sprinter van because they're ridiculous how much they are.
Yeah, I mean, mine is not nice. I'm gonna have to like build it out, but either way, it'll be fun. And honestly, I can live down by the river, so it's fine.
Yeah, we had last year. Me and Tyler stayed in. We went to the Night Force CLR match in Wyoming, and we stayed. We showed up to the KOA that night in the bus, and our stall was right next to the river. So Scott Satterley's laughing his ass. I live in a van down by the river.
Yes.
You can go to hell.
Literally about to become my life.
Yep. But we'll have you out here in Utah. The range, we're going to go work on it tomorrow. We're excited about it. Every 100 yards out to 1,000, and then we got a mile target. We got a pistol range. We got a 22 range. We got everything out there, and it's going to be one of those faces. I told Tyler the other day, I says, it's been a long time since I've really been honestly excited, to go shoot. It's kind of become my business more than a hobby, and I'm excited. I want to go shoot. I want to invite people out, want to have burgers, go back to the OG days. I had a lot of discussions with the old boys lately, the OG boys. It's like, go back to before the prize tables, before, all the stuff, just going out shooting, hanging out with the guys. And I think that's what a lot of the one-day matches are about. But I challenge all of you, just go find a caliber. There's a lot of people out there willing to share their stuff. Not primers or powder. Don't ask about that. You'll probably get shot in the face. But there's a lot of guys that are out there willing to share their guns. If you came and asked me right now, I could probably let you shoot a gun. Just go shoot. Have fun type thing, and then understand what you want, and then go buy one type thing. Go shoot a throwaway, go shoot a 223, go shoot a 6.5, go shoot whatever you're going to shoot. See if you like it, and then go compete with it. I think that's the biggest thing. Jose, any final goodness from you?
Man, I think you hit it on the head. Just go shoot. Don't overthink it. Start with pulling the trigger, right? I mean, you got to start understanding what's it like to get behind your rifle, and then from there, the minutia comes. You figure out what questions to ask, but you don't know what questions. You don't really know what questions to ask or what answers you're looking for. Everybody can ask questions. You don't know what answers you're looking for when you get out there and do it.
True.
What you got, Tyler?
I'd say go to a match and start asking your questions from the people that are shooting good. Pick their brains. Don't jump into Facebook. You're going to get a million wrong answers, and you're going to spend a lot of money.
Unless you're on long range tactics.
Yeah, unless I answered it.
Yeah.
Then it's the right answer then.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's good.
Okay.
I take
Shawn,
that back. If JD posts on it, then it's the right answer.
whatever you two do in your free time's your own business. None of my business. What do you got, Shawn? So you've heard a lot of probably BS. You probably don't even know if we've lied to you tonight, but there's a cool build, including this box right here.
Yeah.
Coming your way, and kind of what have you taken out of this?
Honestly, just to chill. I think, I don't know. I get so wrapped up in like the minutia of things that it sometimes cripples me from making decisions. So I think just chilling. And honestly, like the fact that this podcast exists. So Cole and I talked for a long time before we brought this podcast to the Firearms Radio Network. And like, this is necessary. This is mandatory. Like we have podcasts on the network for a lot of different things, but to have this, it's important. Like, I think long range shooting, it's a thing. It's growing leaps and bounds. And that's just me observing it kind of from the periphery. But it's one of those things. It's an art and a sport. And I'm so happy to have like this podcast on there, and then to be on the podcast and be like the guy who doesn't know anything about anything. Is awesome. And to be able to hit Cole up and be like, hey, like, this is the question. What's the answer? He never gives me real answers. He's just like, well, you need to like, he's like a karate sensei. He's like Mr. Miyagi. He's like, well, first you need to pay the fence, and then we'll be able to figure out where we go from there. But it is incredibly valuable, like what you guys are doing and the groups and everything. And yeah, like I'm gonna chill out. I'm gonna make decisions, and I'm gonna move forward with it. And the next Pikes Peak Precision, like that they have, or that I'm actually in town for, I'm gonna go because I think it's huge. I'm gonna go see Cole in Utah, and I'm gonna get into it. And I think just kind of stepping back and taking one step at a time, pulling a trigger first, and then making some choices after that is a huge thing.
Yep. I mean, spend some time behind it, dry fire, understand your trigger and have fun. I mean, that's the biggest thing. And I think that's part of the discussion that a lot of people have lost, contact with, is just go out and have fun. Just go out and practice. Just go out and do your thing. Go out and smell gunpowder. I used to love the smell of gunpowder. Now I can't hardly stand it because I've been around it so much. But it's just one of those things. You get around suppressors. You get around a lot of that stuff. So, and I really do want to appreciate, and say thank you to the Firearms Radio Network. It's a huge network. If you haven't tried it out, it's firearmsradio.tv, right?
Yep.
So go to firearmsradio.tv. There's a whole shitload of freaking podcasts on there, from pistols to carbines to we like shooting to everything. So go check it out. We're happy to be on it. We've hit over 100,000 downloads being a part of it. It's just crazy where this is going, and we're going to do better at making sure we're here every week and, talking about this stuff, because it shows me, being a part of that group, how many people want to be a part of it. They just don't know what the heck to do. And, between the Firearms Radio Network, between this podcast, between Long Range Tactics, we're all here to help you. You don't have to be overwhelmed with, coming in and being a part of it. Just go out and hang out. Go take your camp chair out, sit around and BS with guys and have fun. And I appreciate you all for coming on, and hopefully have a good weekend. And thanks, Shawn, for coming. Thanks, Jose and Tyler, and have a good weekend.
Bye.
Don't be afraid to pipe up. Send us your questions or topics and we'll cover them on the show. Thanks for listening.